Hello there, it is Nick Zangl coming at you live from California on this Thursday evening here, local time, Los Angeles, California time zone. Last night was episode 5 of the 11th season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and it was geniusly titled The Divided State of Erika, and you will see in a few seconds why it was called that. But before we get into that, if you are watching or listening live on YouTube, make sure to say hi in the live chat as you join and as you have anything to say. If you are listening or watching on the replay, whether you are on Rumble, on YouTube, or on your favorite podcasting platform, thank you so much for being on the replay. And if you have any comments, make sure to leave them wherever you are able to. And with that said, before we jump right into this, I want to say one thing for those of you who have been coming back frequently to not only these streams with Real Houses of Beverly Hills, but also in my other streams of other topics, which is yesterday I did a live stream and I realized after I had already recorded and finished, and as I was listening back to it to add the timestamps in, which is what I normally do, I realized that I had a weird audio issue. And what I found out was, or realized was, right before I went live, I had to reboot my tablet where I plug everything into. And when I went back into my streaming platform, I had to quickly check everything, make sure it was good. I ended up checking the camera setting. It was all good. But then when I went to my audio setting, I accidentally set it to the camera audio on my camera. So today, hopefully, the sound is better because I'm using my external microphone, which was in the picture yesterday, but just wasn't used. Luckily, it didn't affect the message too much, but it just wasn't as clear of audio. So probably suffered if you were listening on audio only. But hopefully it was fixed. And I fixed it's funny because I fixed the camera setting to make sure it wasn't autofocusing, which was the problem before, but then I traded that for audio issues. So anyways, as you're joining, make sure to say hello. And with that said, let's jump right in and I will check the live chat as we head through this. So Act 1, we started with Erika. Hold on one second. There we go. Perfect. We started with Erika here in the car by herself, and she stares at the camera, which we find out later on why she is doing that and where she's going. She's on her way to meet the other girls, and there's a voiceover of Erika just basically saying that she knows that the girls are going to have a lot of questions, and we get her briefly commenting at the table with the girls at Sutton's house, and then her walking up to the house, and she basically just said, quote, "I did not see it ending this way. I thought I'd be holding his hand until the day he dies." And then we go back to 3 days before, which was election day, where Kyle is decorating for an election party dressed in patriotic attire. So we will revisit Erika's situation at the end of the episode. So we have Kyle says she doesn't like to talk politics, but because we could have the first female vice president in America, and she's someone with daughters, that she thought it was important to witness and celebrate. Then we have Eric. We learn that Erika isn't coming to the party, and that Kyle says in her confessional that she was shocked at the news with Erika's divorce, but when she pans out, she says she wasn't really that shocked considering the circumstances, which she was saying she saw from the outside, meaning the age gap and just that kind of stuff. But then we learn also Garcelle isn't coming to the party because she is with her kids, and we learn of an incident between Dorit and Kyle, and apparently it was a scuffle that happened on the way home from Lake Tahoe, which we saw the last couple episodes. And it happened on the plane where apparently Kyle cut off or inserted herself in a conversation that Dorit and Crystal were having on the plane. And while they were talking about it, it was basically an argument over, they kind of confronted each other on the plane, and it was an argument over letting others talk. And it appears that Dorit kind of snapped back at Kyle, and Kyle ended up crying on the plane. And then Kyle kind of says she thinks Dorit holds her to a different standard. And now we kind of know why we didn't really see their travels back from Lake Tahoe back to Beverly Hills, because one, this was probably the only thing that really happened drama-wise. But it seems on the surface it's kind of petty, but we'll learn later it's a little deeper than that. But it is one of those pet peeves, and actually something that I personally struggle with being kind of socially awkward, which is kind of this interrupting thing, which isn't always intended to be mean or disrespectful, but because for my case, my situation, I'm either sitting there quietly observing, coming off kind of like a creep or kind of shy, or I'm trying too hard to not come off that way because I'm being more conscious of what's going on, and it ends up turning into cutting people off or kind of feeling a little anxious and kind of jumping in and being coming off a little rude. But I kind of understand both sides here. But we then cut to Crystal and her husband heading to Kyle's house for the election night party, and we see Crystal shares in the car her uneasiness with having to see Sutton after what happened with her and Sutton in Lake Tahoe. And basically, Crystal says it's all petty in comparison to the stress of the election and the impacts of that. And then we see here Rob, who is Crystal's husband, meeting some people the first time, a lot of the girls, and of course Mauricio, who is pictured here, who is Kyle's husband. So then we have another interesting outfit choice from Dorit this time, who wore this as her patriotic American outfit. And clearly it's not the colors that we would all probably think when we think of an American flag, meaning red, white, and blue. Kyle kind of makes fun of her and describes it as a preppy leprechaun look. And while at first I was kind of confused by this and thought it was kind of dumb, I then thought to myself, well, we are here in America where we're supposed to have these freedoms, right? So I'm not completely against this outfit from Dorit because she's just expressing her freedom of expression. Of course, the obvious choice is to wear red, white, or blue, or a combo of these, but it's Dorit, and she had to have her turn on having a weird outfit. But anyways, that's one thing. But everyone is now coming to Kyle's. They seem to all be cordially getting along, and Rob is meeting the other girls and getting along with Sutton, which we'll revisit later on when you figure out why they're getting along. Then Kyle asks people who they think are going to win. Some say they don't know, and they don't think we'll know until Thursday, which election night's on Tuesday. And Sutton says she thinks it'll take a month. She seems to be the one that was the most accurate with that. But then we have the girls all sitting around kind of talking, and we learn that Erika did send that text message that we saw at the end of last episode that morning on election morning. So they showed it basically true to form at the end of last episode. And then we get flashbacks to last year when Erika and Tom were together in the same room with the other girls, and they were all kind of just asking if they've heard from Erika, to which Lisa Rinna says from her interactions with Tom and Erika over the past few years of getting to know them, she said she didn't really see any signs of divorce. And so Kyle then says in her confessional, she would have handled it a little differently. She probably would have told the girls she was getting a divorce, and she thinks that because Erika didn't tell them in the way that in person, that maybe they aren't as close as she thought. So we'll see how this all plays out as we learn more from Erika. Like I said, at the end of the episode, we'll hear more from her. But then we got a kind of a recap from the girls as they're sitting here of the Lake Tahoe trip that we saw the last few weeks. And then we see the guys separately, which is kind of funny, talking about it. And it appears some details have been being left out when it comes to the girls telling their husbands what happened at Lake Tahoe. Because PK, who's in the right side here, down here, he seems to be siding with Crystal because he appears to think that Sutton did not knock on the door when she was trying to return the coat to Crystal. And then Mauricio kind of shrugs it off as he normally does with things, saying, if we were on a guy's trip, you would just barge in too. So stop being kind of dumb or whatever. And so we have that whole thing, and it's very normal. We didn't hear Crystal's husband's side of it. So he appears to be kind of, well, actually, we'll learn more about that in a second. But before I get to your live chats for all of you who are here, then we get Crystal sharing that she lost 5 pounds from the Lake Tahoe trip, to which Kathy jokingly says, oh, thanks to Sutton, congrats, that's great. But then Sutton kind of says that she doesn't want to be responsible for that because Crystal had just said that it's not necessarily a good thing for her because she has a history of bulimia. She's a recovering bulimic. And so that's kind of where this act ends, and we'll pick up there when we come back. But I want to say hi to everyone in the chat. So I see Violet is here. Hello, Violet. Can you let me know, make sure my microphone sounded good? At the beginning of this, before some people came in, I was touching on how yesterday my microphone was I accidentally use my camera microphone instead of my external microphone which is right in front of me. So just let me know that this one is working and it sounds good if you can. So it looks like everyone's still coming in, so we'll get on to Act 2, but let me know if it sounds okay. So Act 2, we start again with Crystal clarifying that this wasn't a relapse for her. And she basically shares her bulimia is under control, and she goes a little deeper in her confessional about how she was 11 years old when she became bulimic, and it was because she saw a video in school with a negative message attached to the eating disorder. But she said from that video, she actually learned some tools to begin her eating disorder, which I think is kind of sad to hear. And we get flashbacks then to Lisa's daughter, Amelia, sharing about her eating disorder, and we hear about Kyle when she shared last season and the seasons before. And so clearly Crystal is sharing that she learned about eating disorders and how to have one from school's videos saying it was bad. So this kind of brought up a conversation in my mind. Thank you, Violet, for saying the audio is great. Yes, of course. And yesterday I didn't check, and that was the problem too. I should have checked. So that was my fault. But she's saying she learned the tools to have an eating disorder by seeing basically tutorials from videos that are really meant to deter people and make people aware of how bad they are. So this got my brain thinking about a lot of the awareness culture that we're in, where we have Suicide Awareness Month or Mental Health Awareness Month or Eating Disorder Awareness Month, whatever it is, or any awareness or cancer or whatever, and how some of these things may be instructing or giving people the awareness that these are options for them, when before they may not have even thought about doing these things like suicide or like having an eating disorder. So I understand those things are meant to bring awareness to hopefully prevent them from happening or get people help where they need it if they have these things. But my question to you is, and you can say this in the chat and we can get to it after this act is over, but is it worth doing the awareness and having these campaigns and showing these things in school if it's a net positive, even if there are some people who end up having a negative experience out of these things? Let me know what you think. And it kind of goes back to what we've been touching on recently on the channel, which is not everything, or most things have a good and a bad side. It's just weighing kind of how much of each is acceptable to us. Same thing with, hold on one second. Same thing with the whole idea behind Vision Zero, which is a thing that's happening in the transportation industry with driving, and how the goal is to get to 0 deaths on the roadway, which sounds great and all. I think it's a noble cause, but the reality is a lot of the factors that are in play when it comes to people dying on the roadway are things that are not in control by people outside of the person who's driving, meaning drunk driving or driving under the influence or being drowsy or being tired or whatnot. So it's kind of this up and down, or this kind of back and forth thing. So let me know what you think of that in the chat, and I'll get to your comments in a few seconds. But then we go on to Lisa Rinna sharing with Rob, who's Crystal's husband, Crystal's husband, that she is nervous about the outcome of the election. And then Lisa says, well, then I was thinking to myself, well, we've already gone through 4 years, so just be 4 years of the same. And Rob then basically says, yeah, it's just another 4 years, to which Sutton kind of was feeling the room and was kind of saying, okay, let's calm down. There's enough going on out there. Let's chill. And then we see Kyle and Dorit go and sit to talk to each other in the other room about how they addressed each other on the plane, which is what we learned about earlier on their plane ride home from Tahoe. And again, the men are in the other room laughing about it. And I like when they show that kind of the contrast between the men talking about something and the women, because it's kind of true. I mean, it's not always the case, but it's kind of true. Because I know when drama starts to happen, although I am a nosy person by nature, I do not want to be directly involved in anything crazy unless I have no choice and I'm just there and I just can't escape. So I'm with the guys on that one. But it starts out calm between Kyle and Dorit. And we hear Dorit share how last year Kyle interrupted her a lot when they were at dinners and events together. And Dorit says it made her feel like she is less important, or that Kyle was thinking that her voice was less valid. And I think that was a fair thing for Dorit to bring up, because I do think if you're being cut off or not included, just like Sutton was at the table the last few weeks in Tahoe, it does make you feel a little bad about yourself. And so Kyle then doubles down, basically saying you do a lot of talking. And then they get kind of heated after Kyle says, basically, do not speak to me that way if we want to be friends going forward. And then we get a flashback of Kyle last year saying F you to Dorit at the table, to which Kyle justifies it. And Dorit gets up and says, we're good, and kind of shuts down. And Kyle basically says, oh, you're pulling an Erika, saying we're good. So that was the end of that act. And then we get into the third act, which was, it picked up where we left off here. And we see Dorit walks away and she says she's done with this conversation. And Kyle says she's pulling an Erika, like I just said. Then we see Dorit saying she wants to go home to see her dad, basically as an easy way to get out of the situation that's kind of uncomfortable now. Grabs her husband and basically says if she hadn't brought her dad, she wouldn't have left. We see Kyle then and her kids in the house, because obviously everyone's home because it's a pandemic. And Kyle and Dorit and PK all talk, and Kyle wants them to stay because she wants them to eat and have a good night. So they leave. Then everyone obviously continues to talk about Dorit, because if you leave the party early, you're the one that starts to become the conversation. It's kind of just how it works. So Dorit walks away or is gone. In the car, she says, friends don't do that, referring to Kyle. And the girls say, wait, did Dorit say her parents just came in to town this morning? Because we thought she said her parents came a few days ago. So the girls weren't buying her excuse, but it's understandable that Dorit didn't want to be there anymore after her and Kyle got in a little spat. But basically, we then see a clip from MSNBC wrapping up the night saying both campaigns aren't going to have an answer, or not expecting an answer of who won. And like many of us on election night, it ended quite anticlimactically. So now we go to, we see Garcelle and Sutton at a Bentley car dealership where they had it closed down for them to have a maskless event. And of course, it's a high-end dealership, so selling one car to them is a lot of money, and we'll see that in a few seconds. But Sutton is shopping for a new car, and Garcelle kind of just says, maybe I want one too. And Garcelle then shares her past cars and her journey to getting a nicer car over the years as she became more successful. And Garcelle then asks the guy how much this car is worth, and it is worth $380,000. Yes, I know, it's a lot. But then we get to Sutton and Garcelle catching up about election night. Garcelle wasn't there because she was with her kids, and they kind of just touch base on if they've heard from Erika, since it's literally days after she announced her divorce to them. But Garcelle kind of says she understands why Erika is kind of being down low low profile and not showing up to the election party, because obviously she just announced her divorce. So Sutton then says her business manager already talked to the dealership, but she declined to answer how much she was approved for regarding the car when the producer asked her this question in her confessional. But we learned that Sutton did buy the car as her first without having to ask permission, since she is recently divorced. Garcelle then comforts her, saying, you know what, don't feel bad for this, because men do this to themselves all the time. And I agree, you do you, it doesn't matter. But anyways, we head to then Crystal and Rob again at their house, debriefing election night again. And it appears that Sutton, who we just saw, and Rob, who's pictured here, hit it off well, because they actually have a mutual friend named Jennifer Tilly, who is in the entertainment industry. And so they have a mutual friend they both worked with in some way. And Crystal kind of says, well, Sutton wasn't on her best behavior last night. And then Crystal goes on to say that her husband is very likable, a little more forgiving, a little nicer than her. And we kind of get we learn more about their household, meaning different parenting styles. We see them with their kids. We hear that Rob shows his kids a new 40s movie every week, to which Crystal is not invited. And we see Crystal disciplining her child by eliminating one topping from her ice cream dessert that night because she interrupted them talking as adults. And then we go on to learn that Lisa Rinna, we get a flashback to election night, told Rob in front of Crystal at the election night party that she was brave for sharing about her eating disorder. And they kind of talked about the eating disorder a little more. And Crystal basically shares that she felt growing up that she was the chubby one and this is Crystal's words, saw being American as being a blonde, blue-eyed, skinny, white woman. And that she shared her bulimia peaked at the end of high school and into college. And she shared that her parents still do not know to this day that she had an eating disorder. Of course, if they come to watch the show, they're going to know this now. But she basically went on to say that she finds it challenging and she has to work really hard to make sure she's not passing some of those things down to her daughter, and talked about how her daughter would say that her legs look skinny and she had to kind of correct her daughter, saying mommy works out and is fit or healthy or whatnot. So I thought that was very brave of her to share that as well. But now here's the thing, before we get into the next act and I see your live chat, the thing about Crystal saying that she thought growing up being blonde, blue-eyed, white, and skinny meant being American, it explains to me a little bit why she reacted the way she did towards Sutton, who is a white blonde woman and American, a few weeks ago. And so I just wonder why she thought that growing up, and kind of who or what had the biggest influence on that. I would be curious to know from Crystal kind of where, looking back, what she thinks was that influence on her. And she has shared a few weeks ago that growing up, when she would be at the gas station with her dad, people would yell at them saying, "Get out of my country," and treat them differently because they looked Asian. And so I don't know, this was it let us in a little more on her mindset now as a result of what she grew up as. But let me get to your chat, see what you guys are thinking. So hello, UC Boss. I see you there. Thanks for being here. Let's see. UC Boss says, I don't watch any Housewives shows, so I'm going to sit this one out. Just stopping by to like, comment, and share. Thank you so much for reminding us of that. And no worries. Come back in the next one. And I hope you still get something out of this if you're watching. Nasteya Gael, hopefully I'm saying that right, said, until they showed the flashback, I thought Dorit was massively overreacting. But obviously this is the trend for Kyle. She probably had enough. I completely agree with that. I was kind of in the same boat as you, kind of not remembering if this is a thing. And once they show things in the past, I can see how this is kind of the breaking point for her. So I completely agree. Natasha or UC Boss says, are you by any chance in the true crime community? I'm asking because I mod a few channels under another account and your name looks familiar, if you don't mind answering that. Okay. Hopefully she sees that. It looks like you guys are meeting up about that. Yes. Let's see. UC Boss says, Nick, I'm nosy as fuck too. And I have so many questions for you, but not here. Is your email different from your newsletter one? Do you have a Twitter, Discord, Hangouts, or any way to DM you? So the email that is attached to my newsletter is the email address you can reach me. It's the same one that's in the description. So the email list is, the reply to that is the same. So there's the thing. UC Boss says, I'm still here. I never left. I'm a snowflake. Yeah. No, you're fine. Okay, so you can reach me there, and it's in the description as well. All right, so let's go on to the next act. Act number 4 of 6. So we see then Sutton at her store with boarded up windows because it's in the Beverly Hills area because of the riots and just being closed because of the virus and not being able to be open in person, where Kathy and Kyle show up to talk about the upcoming Sutton party that she's having. And they talk about mom jeans because she sells them at her store now, being back in style after being made fun of for wearing them back in the day. Kyle corrects Sutton on being Kyle's house, to which where Sutton is hosting her party because Sutton is renting Kyle's house from her for, like we said a million times, $20,000 a month. And Sutton then texts Erika about coming to the event. Kathy then starts critiquing Sutton's store, and Kyle kind of gives more context, meaning this is just Kathy's inner older sister coming out. We learn Erika is coming to Sutton's event, which is the party that we saw at the beginning of the episode, but got cut off. And Sutton says when she was going through her divorce, liked having an excuse to kind of be out and about and go get out of bed, basically, because she was so sad. So she's happy that Erika is coming. Then we get to see a little more of the home life of Lisa Rinna and Harry Hamlin. They're working on their garden at their house, which was built as a result of the pandemic when it started, because in Harry's words, he said that Armageddon can happen at any time, and so they started to grow their own food. He's not exactly wrong, but they're in Malibu, so they were a little more insulated, but you never know when you can be cut off. And it expanded over the months, she said, from this small little thing up on the deck to this whole area being converted to that. And then we also have a funny part of them doing a fire drill. And we see that he has an above ground pool that he uses basically as a reservoir for water in case the fire gets too close to their house. And we see Lisa Rinna starting to run the generator, kind of doing things we don't normally see Lisa Rinna doing. And I'm actually glad they showed this because I think, if anything, this past year plus has only made people embrace their inner prepper. And so I think it was funny and relatable to see this. And then at the end of the scene, we get some innuendos by Lisa Rinna regarding Harry and the hose they used to save their house. But you can watch the episode or put two and two together on what the innuendos were. Then we get Lisa briefly talking with Harry about his past divorces, and Lisa shares that she came into Harry's life at the end of his second divorce and kind of how they had to deal with some of the emotional baggage as a result. But then that was the end of that act. We cut to commercial. Let me check the chat really quick. Yes, UC Boss says, okay, looks like everyone's chatting. Nadia is here. Hi, Nadia. Thanks for being here. Nadia, I think, is calling out UC Boss for spelling Nastia. Maybe it's Nastia. Her name incorrectly, but okay, cool. So everyone's just kind of chatting. No, it's all good. You guys can chat whatever you want. You can always come back and rewatch. All right, so we're in the second to last act, and we are seeing everyone arriving to Sutton/Kyle's house for a Parisian lunch because Sutton says she misses Europe and because they weren't able to travel and not go to Paris Fashion Week this year, and starts critiquing her party planner for saying it looked too bridal. Meanwhile, we see Kyle heading to Crystal's to pick her up, and Kyle is eyeing this $95,000 Hermes bag as they are having tea and chatting about kind of the weather and whatnot and the change of weather. So let me know what you think of this bag, both price of it and the look of it. I have my thoughts on Hermes and just expensive bags in general because I'm fascinated by why people even like this stuff. But I kind of understand a little bit why, but also I don't. But anyways, let me know what you think of this bag in the chat. And give me 1 second for water. All right, we're back. Looks like everyone in the chat's good. Nastia says, no, you're pronouncing it correctly. Awesome. And it sounds like, yeah, okay, we're good. We got some really cool names here, I think. All right, so like I said, we see the $95,000 bag. Let me know what you think of the bag in the comments. And we have then Dorit showing off her outfit in her Encino home. And her kids are cute, chilling on the couch, saying, bye, Mom. And then we get back to Kyle and Crystal showing up to Kyle's house that Sutton is renting. And they're in the car saying they're happy that Erika is coming. And Actually, backtrack for a second. They're still at Crystal's house, talking about Kyle filling in Crystal on what happened with Dorit from election night, and that her and Dorit haven't spoken since, but are open to moving forward. So we get back to Kyle and Crystal here now are at Kyle's Bel Air house that Sutton is renting, and they arrive, and Kyle kind of brings up a funny thing because we've seen Kyle at this house living there on the show. We saw her before she moved in, we saw her when she moved in, we saw her after she moved out. And she's like, it's really weird showing up to the house I own and having to ring the doorbell as a guest. And so it was kind of a funny little interaction between Crystal and her. But Kyle walks in, says she likes the way Sutton decorated, makes her want to move back in, but also in her confessional says she likes it, but she feels kind of weird and about it, or thinks it's kind of weird. So anyways, she's kind of confusing. Kyle's saying one thing to Sutton's face, but something else behind her back in her confessional. Then we see Lisa Rinna show up in the same dress as Kyle, which we'll get into the last act and we'll touch on this a little more, but let me see what everyone's saying in the chat. Let's see. Okay, we have an opinion on the bag. Let's see what we say here. Nastia says that bag is ugly, by the way. I completely agree. Let's go back to that picture for a second. For some reason, let me actually make it bigger. Oops. So here's the bag more up close. I think the windows on it and I don't get the design. Maybe there's some inspiration behind it. There's some historical meaning. I don't get why it's $95,000. The more simple ones seem to me more expensive and elegant. But anyways, let's see. So, a user by the name of I Like Poo, who I've seen here before, says this, and it's gross. So I shouldn't have even said anything about that, but there's that. They like their attention, apparently. Okay, so let's keep going. Let me make sure I'm on the right one. So we get them into Act 6, the last one, and we open with Lisa's flashback to when she has worn the same outfit as someone else on multiple occasions at this point. Dorit shows up, Garcelle shows up, and everyone is kind of fake kissing, celebrating that kind of pretentious double kiss as they celebrate the Biden-Harris quote-unquote win. And Garcelle points out Kamala is half black, half Asian. Kyle comments on telling her kids in the morning that we have a female vice president. Garcelle then says that we have been divided for too long and we need some sanity back, and she thinks that Biden-Harris will give that. And she said that every black girl sees themselves in Kamala. I'm sure you can guess what I think about that since we've had this discussion on both the recaps and reactions of this show and on other videos as well. So let me know what you think of that. And we see then Kathy shows up, and as they are waiting for Erika to show up, Garcelle, this is a blurry picture, but anyways, Garcelle says she was surprised to hear about the divorce of Erika's and recalls her experiences over the past year getting to know Erika and how she thought Erika was in this for the long haul, and she actually was inspired by her love for her husband Tom. But then Dorit kind of says this is typical of Erika to kind of hold things close to her and only share them once she is ready to. And then we see Erika in the car, and where she started the episode, her driving to this event, and we get a flashback to Lake Tahoe conversations with Garcelle on the boat, which I touched on last week as something that was obviously put in there for a reason, which appeared that Erika and Tom were doing well. And so I think Garcelle is right in bringing up some of the why this is weird, because there weren't any signs that they were going to get a divorce. So Garcelle, before Erika shows up, even questions if Erika actually filed. The girls said yes, it was Erika who filed, and Garcelle asks, why didn't she wait? And some of the girls are like, what do you mean by that? And I got it right away, but she was basically implying, why didn't Erika just stick it out until he died, because he's 80 years old? And some of the girls obviously didn't get it. And then once they figured it out, their jaws kind of dropped. And Sutton kind of laughed and said, "That is so evil, Garcelle." Anyways, we get Erika walking up right here with this picture. Her head held high, confident, collected. She's kind of strutting. She opens the door, closes it behind her, and poses facing the ladies in the next room, next to the foyer, with this look. And the episode ends, and we don't have a preview of next week. So a few things about this look. Let me know. I'm going to give a few overall thoughts on this episode really quickly, and then we'll get into your live chat and your questions and your comments. But overall, this episode was titled Divided States of Erika. But we didn't really see Erika that much. However, the parts we did see her in, or where we were talking about her, she did break the fourth wall. So she looked directly into the camera, which I thought was fascinating. We saw her about to confront things head on with the group, which we will see next week, or start seeing next week. But from my perspective, it does look as if she is kind of overcompensating or putting on this veneer and is trying, I think, to overcompensate for what's going on underneath, which at this point appears to the group and to people in that moment in time was only to be about the divorce and not the legal issues, which we're going to be aware of on the show later, and we do know now with her ex-husband. And so this walk up of hers at Sutton's rental, plus the way she kind of enters the room, seems kind of off to me and sort of like she's putting on an act. And I don't mean that as far as like the show is a fake and everyone's just actors. I'm saying is she's acting like things are going to be okay, or that she's strong, and she's walking with her chin up and slamming in the door behind her, kind of dramatic and kind of over the top, saying like, "I'm here, bitches," or whatever she'll say. And it's kind of covering up what I think is really going on. So that cold, emotionless side to Erika, which we've known her for, is really showing here. And I think the only time we really see her expressing like emotions is when she's bottled things up and kind of is letting it out. But even the girls in the last episode, when they got the text messages and they were reacting on FaceTime, said this is very, and Lisa Rinna in particular said this is very Erika, to kind of just bottle it all in and then let it out in a not as in-person way, and then kind of have to deal with the ramifications. But from a viewer's perspective, where we know more is going to come out and we kind of are watching this in a revisionist history way, it is kind of unsettling, but also fascinating to be seeing this play out on camera as if it is, or as it is happening to the people closest to Erika on the cast. And I'm very curious to see if the girls are going to pick up these weird things and kind of off things that we've been seeing. And because we're kind of, as viewers, have this crystal ball, for lack of a better term, right now. So I'm thinking, based on what Garcelle has already kind of brought up before Erika even entered the room and her skepticism in this episode, and based on previews of what we've seen, the girls are going to confront Erika and question her and not really hold back. So last thing is, I have so many, before I get to your chats, I have so many questions, because clearly the rest of the season is going to be revolving around Erika's divorce and her legal troubles. And Bravo, their whole trailer for the season was giving us an expectation as viewers that we are going to learn about the situation. But also Bravo has this liability, because yes, it is a reality show, but also they're a company and they have their own responsibility as the platform of the show. But then if they show stuff off on the show, will Erika end up not coming to the reunion because of the legal stuff that's still ongoing, both during the filming, during the editing process, and as we're watching it premiere? The legal stuff is not going to resolve there anytime soon, from what I've learned from other channels and legal commentators who are covering this. And so my other question is, will this be a multi-season storyline? Will Erika quit, or will this solidify her position and make her want to stay on the show even longer to kind of give herself a redemption arc, should any of this be a blow to her character and whatnot? Because this is a way for her to show more sides to her. Because also she appears to be very deep in the hole financially because of what's coming out. And this show is a paycheck. And it gives her a platform and drives viewers to her social media where she can do endorsement deals to kind of get back on track. So I don't know, but I feel like everything a part of this, everyone a part of this, every part of this is a mess for Bravo, for Erika, for the show, for the girls, for her friends, for everyone. So for us, for viewers, it's interesting, but this could also leave us hanging at any point should any of the parties involved make a decision to kind of just stop doing this or change course and not cover this anymore or fire her from the show. But from reality TV standpoint, I think this is gold, despite it being a result of alleged illegal, immoral activity. So let's get to your chats, and then I will give a brief programming note for the next few weeks. Let's see. What are we saying here? Violet says, I wonder if some of these bag designs are chosen for them on the show. Hopefully they give them options so they can express themselves through their stuff. Yeah, it could be a custom bag, and I know there's some reasoning behind, and it's promotion on the show. So it could be product placement. I don't know. UC Boss says, Nick, you need mods now. You are growing. I think Violet is a good candidate because her and I have been here a long time. Yeah, I'm kind of always in reevaluation of needing that kind of stuff, but also the moderator thing, I have to really sit down and think about this because there's some conflicting things about what I stand for versus what moderators and some of the things that have been happening lately, but I get, yes, it's on my mind for sure. Violet says, I've never been a mod, but I'd be honored. Thank you for making yourself available and letting me know that. So that's good to know. Thank you so much. I appreciate that we have a group here that is supportive and willing to do that. Yeah, EC Boss. I know. I don't even know why. I usually ignore them, but whatever. Let's see here. UC Boss says, you are now an important figure. You got your first troll. Yeah, I mean, my first troll on these type of videos. I have trolls on my multi-level marketing related videos. Let's see. Violet says, I understand what you mean. My major is political science, so there's a lot of debating and trying to help express everyone's message clearly. I agree. Nastia says, I think Crystal is too hard on Sutton. Hold on. Let me 1 second. I want to change my banner settings for a second. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Let's go back to the chats. I guess that didn't work. Hold on 1 second. Shift videos up for comments, banners. I thought I changed that. Anyways, okay. Nastia says, I think Crystal is too hard on Sutton. Every time Sutton has a great attitude, she's on her best behavior. But if she's having behaviors in a way Crystal doesn't like, then that's Sutton's true colors. I completely agree, Nastia. I think there is some... Well, I think there might be some bias on Sutton's end and her reaction to Crystal. I think it also works the other way. And we've seen that kind of aired out, which I really like, about them kind of talking about how they grew up and some of their experiences that have shaped why they reacted the way they did. UC Boss says, I don't see your email, Nick. Let me check really quick on my phone while you guys are here. I guess I'll share a little programming update while I'm checking. So the next few weeks are going to be a little bit in flux out of the normal schedule because I am not going to be able to go live. So there'll only be video premieres. They'll be at 6 p.m. the normal time, but I'm not sure exactly which days they'll be. Most likely during the week, but for the next few weeks it's going to be a little up and down. So UC Boss, if you go to the description of this video, you scroll down all the way until right above the hashtags and where it says live show number 17, Thursday, June 17, 2021, 6 p.m. PDT. I have a thing that says you can also reach me directly via email at nick.zangl@nickzangl.com. And I guess I'll just put it in the chat too. pretty easy. It's my first dot last name at firstlastname.com. So there we go. I will put it in the chat. Nick.Zangl, nickzangl.com. So hopefully that helps you out there. Okay. And UC Boss says, on an unrelated note, but Tati came back today. And actually, I saw that video because I have been covering the Without a Crystal Ball Tati situation. And the video was pretty vague, so I don't really have anything to talk about it yet. But maybe I will kind of give my thoughts on that if I can record a video next week or sometime soon. So, yes. Nastia says, I feel she dislikes Sutton and refuses to see the nuances in people's behavior. Completely agree. Nobody, including Sutton, is all bad or good. She wants to see her only in black and white. 100% agree with that and how everything has nuance. No one is perfect. No argument, no community is perfect. We all have good and bad. And the thing is, we all have different perspectives on what is good and bad. So even if I believe this set of things are all good, the person next to me might believe the opposite. So although we're both existing, we're both seeing each other as, you know what I mean? It can get messy. We're not all the same. All right. Let's see, UC Boss. All right. And yeah, so UC Boss, it's both in the About section of the channel and in the description of the video towards the bottom. So I'm going to have it in both places from now on, and in new videos, they'll have it in both, and then I'm going back through old videos and updating my descriptions and metadata and whatnot. UC Boss says, I got a conference call. I will chat with you later. Yes, please go do that, and I will look forward to seeing you in the future chats as well. So if anyone has any more comments, I'll stay here for a few more seconds. Like I said, make sure to come back here. The next few weeks is going to be a little out of normal, but by the end of first week of July, we'll be back to normal. And if you want to know when videos will come out in the next few weeks, make sure to head to the description of this video or podcast, wherever you're listening or watching, whether you're on Rumble, YouTube, or a podcasting platform. And you'll have directions to sign up for my email list, which is free. And that's where I will share with you when videos are about to go live. Let's see. Nastia says, I'm seriously starting to think Rinna and the other housewives plan the same outfit gag reels just to add some fun to the show. It could be, but honestly, I mean, let's think in like outside of reality TV. If you have a group of friends and you all are close and you might live in the same area, you might shop at the same stores, there might be a chance that you buy the same thing. And some of the outfits that we've seen them show up in the same as are not these like extravagant one-of-a-kind pieces. They're kind of generic looking compared to other stuff they wear. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibilities, but I don't blame you for thinking that maybe they are actually planning this, but it could be production doing it as well. Who knows? All right, so I think we're going to wrap up here. So thank you so much for joining me for this live this week. Stay tuned for premieres for the next few weeks, and then we will return to live streams the first week of July. And with that said, I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, if you need more content, click around the channel. There's a bunch of stuff you can look at. And thanks, Violet, for being here. Thank you, Nastia, for being here. Thank you, UC Boss. Thank you. Who else was here? Nadia was here. I think I see some other people that were trolling the chat, which is fine. You do you. All right. So I think that was everybody. All right. Let's talk in the next one. Bye-bye.